One of the most shocking criminal cases of child abuse ever to take place in the USA makes for an interesting, possibly questionable, choice of inspiration for a movie. Yet, the true crime case resulted in two adaptations that came out the same year, 2007's An American Crime and The Girl Next Door. Both took different approaches to recounting the shocking events that took place in the murder of Sylvia Likens, but which film is the better of the two? We will examine the crime that inspired both films, compare the two in their approach and the performances from the cast, and see which one covered the tragic story the best, both factually and as a cinematic experience. We will also let you know where you can watch both An American Crime and The Girl Next Door. The true story behind An American Crime and The Girl Next Door, the crime that rocked the people of Indianapolis, Indiana in 1965, the murder of Sylvia Likens was a case of such brutal excess that it made national headlines. 16-year-old Sylvia Likens and her sister Jenny were left in the care of a troubled mother, Gertrude Banaszewski, while her parents traveled for work. Gertrude, a stranger to the family, arranged financial compensation for taking care of the girls after the two met with her kids. Over a period of 3 months, Sylvia became subjected to continuous abuse at the hands of Gertrude, her children, as well as other neighborhood youths. This included repeated beatings, burning with cigarettes, scalding with hot water, sexual humiliation and abuse, starvation/dehydration, being forced to eat excrement, and having obscenities carved into her body. Sylvia would die on October 26, 1965, from brain swelling, internal hemorrhaging, and shock induced by her extensive injuries. Over 150 wounds were recorded on her body at her autopsy. The crime would lead to a change in Indianapolis law, especially after the reveal of countless adults and others aware but not acting on the abuse being subjected to Sylvia. This would include the implementation of mandatory reporting on suspects of child abuse in the state. Gertrude Banaszewski was sentenced to life in prison for the murder. Paula Banaszewski, Gertrude's daughter, was originally sentenced to life for murder, but on an appeal got mandatory manslaughter with 2 to 21 years in prison. Coy Hubbard, Richard Hobbs, and John Banaszewski Jr. were 3 of the children involved in torture, received manslaughter charges, and were released on probation after serving 18 months. An American Crime cast and approach to the source material. An American Crime starred Elliot Page, credited as Ellen Page, as Sylvia Likens. Page was a relatively unknown actor at the time, with the movie predating his appearance in the breakout film Juno, though he had appeared in the horror favorite Hard Candy and as Kitty Pryde in X-Men: The Last Stand before the crime drama. The movie also boasted a strong supporting cast of names that would go on to much greater notoriety, including Peter Evans and Haley McFarland. Actor James Franco would also appear in a minor role, and the part of the terrifying matriarch, Gertrude Banaszewski, would go to actor Catherine Keener of Being John Malkovich and Capote fame. She sacrificed me to protect her children, and she sacrificed her children to protect herself. Elliot Page as Saliva Likens. Director/writer Tommy O'Haver would use the real case hearings of the murder of Sylvia Likens by Gertrude Banaszewski and the various teens who frequented her home to torture the young girl. Initially intended for a theatrical release, the movie suffered from internal issues with its original distributor. This led to the movie's release as a made-for-TV special on the Showtime network in 2008, a year after its premiere at Sundance. Despite its delayed release, An American Crime would go on to win various awards, including a Golden Globe and a Primetime Emmy for Catherine Keener's performance as Gertrude Banaszewski. The Girl Next Door was directed by Gregory Wilson, with the one film being his most notable work, having only directed 3 films, with his last being the made-for-TV movie Ghoul, which came out in 2012. The cast consists of mostly actors in the indie scene, with Blythe Alford playing the role of Meg Laughlin, Sylvia Likens-inspired character, and Blanche Baker playing Ruth Chandler, inspired by Gertrude Banaszewski. William Atherton plays the role of David Moran, a fictional character, who opens up the movie reflecting on the past as well as providing narration throughout. The rest of the cast is largely unknown, seeing moderate success in smaller productions and TV series. Unlike An American Crime, The Girl Next Door is based on the horror novel of the same name by Jack Ketchum, who was inspired by the murder of Sylvia Likens. The book is a fictionalized account, changing the location, era, and the names of those involved. Still, the story draws many close comparisons to the crimes committed, including the writing of insults on Sylvia's body by Gertrude and her children. The book, much like the film, was a highly controversial horror movie, drawing protests from the families involved for fictionalizing real tragedy. The movie also took an extreme approach to depicting the crimes, with many giving it the torture porn label. Which movie is better, An American Crime or The Girl Next Door? When picking the best of the two, we have to go with Gregory M. Wilson's The Girl Next Door as the better movie, with its crisper visual direction and more brutal approach to storytelling. The movie is disturbing, and the imagery is unforgettable, driving home the amount of torment that Sylvia Likens had to endure. Even though the cast is less star-studded, they do an impressive job and are comparable to the cast of An American Crime. The wraparound narrative of The Girl Next Door also paints a more personal story than that of the courtroom drama of An American Crime. However, for the majority, An American Crime will be the better pick. Tommy O'Haver's An American Crime, drawing from the actual court proceedings rather than a novel inspired by the case, offers a clearer picture of the events. This gives a more factual account that will appeal to true crime fans, whereas The Girl Next Door could be labeled exploitative and sensational. An American Crime does contain disturbing imagery and themes, but it pales in comparison to the brutality on display in The Girl Next Door. Those not hardened by countless horror films should avoid the latter. You can check out both films for yourself to ultimately decide. If you want to go with the more true crime-inspired option, you can stream An American Crime on Netflix, Fubo, Peacock, or Apple TV+. If you are okay with a bit of excess and a more horror-tinted retelling of the shocking crime, you can stream The Girl Next Door on Prime or Apple TV+.